I want to thank everybody for coming. I want to thank everybody for watching this video. I truly appreciate everyone's interest in the Bow Seat art competition and the We All Rise prize. It's super exciting. It's a pretty beautiful new initiative, and we really want to expand representation in environmentalism, and specifically around the discussion of water and its importance in our lives, our clean oceans, access to clean water, and the like. And we're looking to the young people of Boston, of the United States, around the world, to participate and feel welcomed, to add their voice to this conversation. And we're super happy to have this opportunity to meet with you and share this opportunity with all of you. My name is Jason Talbot. I am a co-founder and the Deputy Director of Artists for Humanity. We are a nonprofit arts organization in the city of Boston. Our studios, I'm reporting live from the epicenter here in South Boston. We employ young people. We have about 150 teens employed here, and they produce art for businesses and individuals all around the world. We find that it's extremely beneficial to young people to be given a creative voice, and it's one of the reasons, and it helped me out a lot. I hope to tell you guys a little bit of that story. And so we feel like it's very important to help young people have a creative voice and feel empowered by this art world, this art community that swirls around us. To facilitate the awarding of the We All Rise prize to the dozens of young people that will receive prizes from Bow Seat, we have assembled a committee of beautifully expressive individuals to help out, and so I would love to give them all a chance to introduce themselves. But before that, I do want to frame everything out, because today we're having a conversation. We want to talk to artists about their process, about what inspires them. We have artists, we have performers, we have activists, all here to speak about what gets them going and to tell the stories that need to be told. We're gonna hear some of the connections that they have to water in their lives, and hopefully inspire all of you to contribute works of art to Bow Seat and the We All Rise prize. So with that, yeah, let's introduce our committee members. Maybe Nakia, you can kick it off.
Great, good evening, everyone. My name is Nakia, and I was born and raised in Boston, grew up in Roxbury for the first 13 years. I always represent Roxbury because that was, the first transformative years of my life up to 13 years old. But I'm a writer. I'm also an educator and a journalist.
Nikia, do you want to pass it off to another one of our committee members?
Yeah, I'm looking right at Free.
Yeah, sorry, I was on mute. Yeah, so everybody, what's up? My name is Free, and I'm an artist. I've been creating art since I was a kid. I was born in Haiti, and I've been just drawing, painting, doing all types of things. And then I started working at Artists for Humanity with Jason in my junior year of high school, and that kind of kicked me off on a trajectory where I fully committed to pursuing art as a career and trying to make a living off of it. So it's kind of cool to be able to sit as a judge in a competition like this. So yeah, I'll share a bit of my work later, but it's good to be here.
Thanks, Free. Who's next up?
I can take it away.
Hey, Yanka.
Hi, everybody. My name is Yanka Petri, and I am an artist and educator in the Cambridge and Boston area. I recently graduated from Massachusetts College of Art in May of 2020. And right after I graduated, I was fortunate enough to get a job at Artists for Humanity, where I met Jason. And I've since moved on from Artists for Humanity because I'm now working at Cambridge Community Television, which is another great nonprofit where we make art with teens. And I will tell you more about it during my presentation because there's a whole lot to tell you there, but I will pass it on to Marcus.
Yeah. What up, people? I'm Marquise Victor. I'm a poet, artist, and I'm also the founder and executive director of Elevated Thought. Elevated Thought is an art and social justice organization based in Lawrence, Mass. We actively address social injustice through creative youth development programs, beautification projects, youth organizing, and paid opportunities for BIPOC creatives. At our core, we believe art is a form of liberation, and I share that sentiment. Grateful to share space with y'all tonight.
Wow. Hey, I am so honored to be in a room with all of you. I gotta say, you know, I've had the privilege of experiencing the work of these committee members, and mind-blowing. You know, you can feel it in your heart and your gut when you see their work. So this is going to be a pretty great occasion for us. Now we're going to show some artwork. So, you know, for those visual learners in the audience, we're going to see some beautiful things. But before that, I do just want to touch base with all of you on this committee to, you know, hear a little bit about, you know, how this all started for you. You know, why did you become an artist? How about it? You guys, well, here, let me kick it off. Let me answer the question myself. I'll go first. I became an artist because my dad was into comic books as a kid. You know, and he was kind of a bookworm. You know, this is before comic books were cool. You know, before the MCU and all that stuff, and it's Jack Snyder cut. You know, he was into comic books, and we used to draw and copy the pictures out of comic books. I can remember as far back as being 3 years old, him handing me a pencil and just going at it. I remember drawing Robin. Like with my little hand, I could barely hold the pencil. I held it like an ice pick, and I'm drawing Robin in the living room. It was my little special time with Dad. And my dad had a huge impact on my life, and that experience still has a huge impact on my life. And that experience got me started. It became something that I did to calm my hyperactivity in class. You know, I'd rush through my classwork, flip it over, and I'd draw pictures all over it. And I became known around my school and in my classes as the kid who liked to draw. So that's where it all started for me. How about you guys? You all.
Yeah, I'll kick it off. Well, I was reflecting on this this question, and like when I was you know, a young girl, like I didn't think like, oh, I want to be a writer. So I would say that art chose me, and the same like for you, as you use that as like a tool to like calm yourself. I used it as a tool to express myself when I was unable to, you know, to the adults in my life. So like I would, instead of like, you know, talking back to my mom whenever I was like frustrated or angry about something, I would respond in my journals. And I've been doing that as early as 13 years old. So writing really helped me get out of a lot of trouble, but it turned out well.
That's so awesome.
I'll jump in. So earlier I mentioned that it was in my teens at Artists for Humanity that I made a conscious decision that I wanted to pursue art as a career, but I kind of view like being a professional artist and just being an artist as two separate things. Like if I weren't trying to make a living off of being an artist, I would still consider myself an artist. And I remember the night. There was a specific night when I made that decision. I was, I think, 8 years old, and I had just moved to the United States. And I was living like at my uncle's house with my parents. We were living in a small room, and my dad had to go outside to meet a friend, and I was scared. So I turned on the TV, and I was flipping the channels, and I landed on Cartoon Network, I think. And then I just saw some cartoons. I didn't know what it was, but I just got fixated on it. And I was already drawing since I was in Haiti, but within like a few minutes of watching that, I told myself, I want to do that. I want to be an artist. And I think that was a kind of an awakening moment for me, where I embraced it as an identity. Like, this is something that I've always loved, and I actually want to embrace it, and I want to um, embody that for the rest of my life. So that's how it started out for me.
Wow. Inspiring.
I will take over from here. My art journey has had a lot of ups and downs. I was born and raised in Brazil, and I moved to Cambridge, Massachusetts about 10 years ago at this point, which is crazy to think about. And back in 2009, my mom gifted me a little CyberShot camera. Some of the older folks in the room might know what I'm talking about. It's not super old, but it's old enough that some teens and children here will not know about. That was my very first camera that I received. It was a pink CyberShot that my mom gifted it to me as a way of documenting my life, because she was actually living in Europe. So I was in Brazil, my mom was in Europe, and we had no way of communicating. There was Skype at the time, but Zoom wasn't a thing, and FaceTime wasn't a thing. So we had to communicate somehow. So I would email her pictures that I was taking with the camera that she had mailed me. And that's how it started for me. My art practice is photography and filmmaking. I don't think I mentioned that, but that's what really was kind of like I flipped the switch, and I really started photographing and taking filmmaking seriously. And that was a great way to communicate with my mom as well. And from there, I started taking classes in photography. I started getting more interested in after school programs that I could do as a teen myself, and just trying to get away from my bubble and like really being creative and getting all the opportunities that I could, especially being in America, where it's a place that there's endless opportunities. So that's where it started for me, and it hasn't stopped. I'm really glad that I'm still an active artist, and I'm still doing what I love, and now teaching people and teens more specifically, my passion.
Thank you all. Love hearing these stories. Yeah, word. Where do I start? I guess I always grew up, curious and creative, and I'm a biracial kid. Shout out to my Haitian brother, Free. I'm half Haitian, and my mom is Irish and French Canadian. So when I was growing up young, like bouncing around, moving everywhere, creativity and exploration was a way for me to grapple with the feelings that I felt of not belonging anywhere, or so that's how I internalized my situations. And when I got to high school, I played basketball, and I made the very, very poor, tragic decision in suppressing my creativity and curiosity and desire to learn and explore self and what my creativity had to offer for the sake of identifying as a basketball player. So I, in turn, truly believe it suppressed my development or repressed my development as a conscious human being. So I got into a lot of bad shit after that. I got a basketball scholarship out of high school, but it quickly went away. I got kicked out of college and got kicked out of my house. And I was living with a friend of a friend of a friend of a friend of a family member in some wild part of Providence. And at that point, creativity reemerged for me as a way to ask some big existential questions through poetry, like who am I? How did I get here? Like the privilege that I had, like why did I throw that away? Like, what does this all mean? And then I started getting into a lot of philosophy and history, And once I started to develop a foundation of self, and creativity was an avenue in which I could do that, I was able to then put my mind and eyes towards the social landscape. And when I did that, I was like, oh man, like it's messed up out here. All these system structures, like how is this? You know, how is this? How are we supposed to just be okay with the way things are? And those two aspects, the art and the social justice, merged together and started the development of what would be elevated thought. So, yeah, it's a little background on my pathway of creativity. And the thing is, too, for me, you know, I was a poet for a very long time, and you know, I started experimenting with different mediums and was trying to really find my voice, like outside of just being a poet. And you know, that was really realized. I'm 35 years old, and that started to happen, you know, when I was in my 30s. So it's an ongoing journey, you know, refining your craft and finding your voice as a creative. And it's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful evolutionary process.
That's amazing. I love it. And you know, that Marcus, that gives me that's a real great segue into this idea of like, you know, what inspires us to make art. You know, it's like for me, you know, early on as a young man, it was about this idea that if I didn't want to feel like there were people who could do things I couldn't do. You know, I wanted to try to. I was Mr. Me Too. I wanted to do it. If other people could paint, I wanted to paint. If other people could make sculptures, I wanted to make sculptures. I felt like, you know, uh, even though I wasn't always reflected in the arts or in museums, or I still felt like, you know, I was worthy, and my parents encouraged me to feel that way. And so I would draw, and I would imitate the art world around me, and it made me feel so amazing. I was a little introverted as a young man, and I didn't I didn't I didn't have anything to say. But then when I drew in my sketchbooks and I had these drawings, I had something to talk about. I would show all my friends. I would, hey, look at this, look at what I did. You know, check it out. It gave me a topic, a conversation, a way to make friends and build my network and show people who I was inside. You know, I mean, I'm a pretty giant guy, and I could be intimidating. So I used to really like to use my art as a way to open up to people and help people, you know, open up to me. So that was what inspired me to continuously grow my skills, keep drawing, even when my drawings were ugly. You know, there was a long period where they were really not what I saw in my head, and but I kept practicing because it even the critique, even bad critique was better than no critique, and the conversations and the relationships that art opened up for me were amazing. So that's one of the things that helped inspire me. What inspires you? How about it?
Are we go? Is this the part where we going reverse? We going reverse now? Yeah, all right, word. We sharing too? Is this a share, little share back
Uh,
joint?
you know, I think, well, it looks like at time wise, this would be a good time to start sharing some artwork too, right?
Mhm.
So yeah, how about you know, if you guys have some slides to show or some artwork to
Word
share,
up.
to see it.
All right, word up. Sounds good to me. Cool. Yeah. So I guess I'll pull up this little image. I won't be too long. I'll show a couple joints and read a piece for y'all. Let me share my screen. Am I able to share my screen? Do you co-host me?
Let me double check that real quick for
All
you.
right, all good. I could start.
Yeah, you can share.
Rapping. Yeah. All right, cool. No doubt. All right. So yeah, so I guess to answer that question, you know, it's a pretty deep question, but for me, like I mentioned before, reflection is key in my life, like reflecting on my personal state, the state of the world, the ones that we love, and really honing in and centering my actions on purpose. And my purpose is love. You know, I got a almost 5-year-old daughter, and you know, once my daughter was born, it really completely altered my perception of reality and how fragile and finite we really are. And that was like an ongoing theme for me, right? But just the love that I felt, and then how I looked at my wife, my partner, how I looked at her, how I looked at them. It changed something inside of me. And after that happened, my craft really started to alter. Like I've always dabbled in existential questioning, philosophy, science, metaphysics, and social justice themes, of course. And I blended those together. And so my work, even with my words, is really kind of abstract. And when I got into mixed media, you know, I did a lot of filmmaking and photography. And then when my daughter was home in COVID, right, we started just like going crazy with the paint. And we started to paint together, and we started to make these abstract paintings. And then we decided to cut them out. And I was like, yo, what if we cut out like family photos and then cut out the abstract paintings, put them on a canvas and create pieces. So I started creating pieces with my daughter, which was mad fun and hella dope. And all these pieces that you see on here, they have an associated poem with them, some that are directly on the piece, some that aren't. But my daughter helped me create all of them, which I love, because it's just really that tangible love coming out in these pieces. So to answer that question with a little bit more depth, I have a piece. It's called Why I Create. That's connected to this. And that's a little photo of, we're in the water theme, so I'll put this joint up there. I love that photo of my ladies. Yeah, so this is why I create. I create to peek behind the curtain of perceived primordial happenstance, to witness eternal bonds knotted in permanence. I create to allow my finite mind to experience the infinite for just an instant. Different eras long gone, bygone, be gone at the crack of dawn, compose the evening when my particle construction chases shadows, third eye studying alchemy in a blaze Pascal tuxedo, projective geometry tucked in pockets, break bread with Dubois and Magneto. I create in indigo lawn bottoms beside air vacuums and first causes, mystic synthesizers captured in a room lit by fleeting embers, minimalist objectives save for the wormholes on my back wall spitting riddles from the fourth dimension. Whenever I create, I eat moon pies while contemplating Cambrian explosions, pretending generative linguistics make any sense to my fragile comprehension. When I create, singular atoms dance sensually with nurtured acumen, enigmatic brain functioning embalmed in William Blake etchings. The ghost of Abel haunts Lot and his daughters, causing me to produce sketches of symbolism for forgotten martyrs in my daughter. I create to recapture the feeling of seeing her footprint under my wife's skin. I create to reimagine the farm in Laogon, retracing steps of lost kin. When I create, I rally misfits, nitwits, pagans, believers, heathens, Gentiles, goys, speak about collective consciousness and laymen. I create to unmask reflective deceits, to analyze veins of leaves, the sun's glare, a mind's release, create then observe in silence. Electrodes catch synapses in caustic action. Garveyism promotes schisms and sonar flares. Catch these hands scribbling under ash twilight between ancient African fractions. When I create, hemorrhages of lavender light proceed to paper. Whenever I create, whatever I create, creation is liberation. Thanks, y'all.
That was fire.
Wow.
Fire.
Appreciate y'all.
Dang.
Yeah, that's what's up. All right. I get it. Now I know. Now I know. I've been informed. Thank you very much.
All right, well, I'll take over from here, if that's okay with everybody. Let me try to share my screen. Okay, here we go. Sorry. Also, sorry about my light. It's really bright tonight. I don't know how to turn it down. But here we go. I have a little slideshow to kind of give you guys a background on me and my work. I already talked a little bit about this, but I was born in Brazil, more specifically this little part right here of Brazil, so almost near Argentina. And like I mentioned, and here's a little slideshow for those that like the visual, this is my very first camera. I actually have it somewhere in my house. I went back to Brazil a few years ago and picked it up from my grandma's house because it's so important to me. So I had to bring it with me along my journey. But this is my very first camera that I was gifted 12 years ago at this point, which is crazy. In 2012, I moved to Cambridge, Massachusetts, so all the way from Brazil up here. My mom had been living in the US and like I mentioned, Europe. She's a lady who loves traveling. She doesn't like settling in one place. So she moved to Cambridge about 10 years ago and I came with her this time. In Cambridge, I was able to actually upgrade my camera, which was much needed, to this little camera here. It's kind of changed everything for me. Not that my cyber shot wasn't good enough, but this one really opened up the doors for me to explore photography on a professional level, as well as filmmaking on a professional level. I was taking some pictures. These pictures are from maybe 6-7 years ago. I was taking some pictures of my friends in school and just kind of having fun with my pictures. I then started taking pictures outside of strangers and just asking people to take their photo, because why not? You know, it was my way of getting out of my house and also still practicing what I love. I'm making this a very quick summary of my work. There's a lot in between of all of these. But then when I was in high school, I started exploring feminism and what womanhood meant, especially to someone who was asking a lot of questions about sexuality and my identity as an immigrant in a foreign country. And I started photographing my friends. And I kind of obsessed over this, where I took a lot of pictures of my girlfriends around me. And I was just kind of like trying to figure out who I was and who I was as an artist more specifically. And then I started photographing and photographing and photographing. And that's one thing that I never stopped, was photographing. I refused to stop doing my craft because I knew that it would slow me down, where, you know, we already live in a world where people are telling you to not do things constantly and to not keep exploring things that are difficult topics. So I never stopped, which was, I think, the biggest lesson I've learned being an artist for all these years, is to never stop. So at the same time, this is young me, a long time ago, I was also kind of putting up my show out there and going to different shows and galleries and asking them to just put my work on their walls. And I got a lot of yes. And then I started kind of getting myself more involved in the Boston art community. And I was giving talks at this point. I was winning awards, which was amazing. And I was in a couple of newspapers. So there was a lot going on when I was very young. And that's what really motivated me to go to art school. And before I went into art school, I was introduced to this place called CCTV, which I'm currently the coordinator of, which is crazy. CCTV, I made many movies and videos, but here are just a few. I'm not going to play them because we're running out of time, but here are just a few of the videos that I've made at CCTV. This is 17-year-old me exploring, again, sexuality and feminism, and just exploring art at this point. Here's some more pictures and videos. And then when I went to school, like I said, I went to art school, I started photographing people around me. And to answer the question of who inspires me, it's really the people around me. My mom was the first person that inspired me by giving me my first camera. And now everyone around me inspired me. I then took a lot of pictures in college. I've made many different projects that I could go in a lot of depth on, but I don't have the time right now. But I've done a lot. And here are just a few of my pictures. I'm the type of person that doesn't like sticking to one project. I often like changing it up, and people, like I said, inspire me. As you can see, most of my pictures are based around people. And then after graduating college, I ended up an Artist for Humanity, as I mentioned, and I was teaching filmmaking at Artists for Humanity. And that's where I met Jason, which led me to here. And now I am at CCTV, but I'm still, I still keep in touch with the Artists for Humanity folks. But that's a little bit of my background. I don't want to take up too much time, and I can stop sharing my screen here. And we can answer questions later on, but that's a little bit about me. Free, I think it's your turn.
Yep. Let me just share my screen. Okay. So, I have some notes because I don't want to get nervous and forget what I'm supposed to say. Yeah, as I mentioned earlier, I come from Haiti, and around 9 years old, I really started practicing. I wanted to draw. I wanted to be good at that. And I think something about coming here and seeing my parents start from like nothing. They gave up everything for us to come here. And like I still remember living in the hood with my parents, and like my dad would go outside with me with a toy car. Like he would take me to this empty lot where like that's where all the fiends would go and do drugs, and like I would be playing with my car, and he didn't even have a car. And so all of that kind of created like this work ethic in me where I wanted to accomplish something. I don't know if like a lot of kids think this way, but at that age for me, I felt I could see the sacrifice that they made, and I wanted it to be worthwhile. So I worked really hard at an early age. Like I had started a business doing portraits when I was maybe 11, where I would go door to door, and I would ask my neighbors if they would let me do their portrait for $7.50. And I would practice that way. And then one neighbor was like, no, you could do it for 12. And I went from 12, I started selling portraits for 25, and then like $50. And I was just learning how to make something out of my gifts. And actually, I was also motivated by hip hop culture, like seeing all the rappers floss and having all this money and stuff. I was like, yo, I want to do that too, but with art. Because I wanted to be a rapper too, but I couldn't really rap like that. So I was doing my thing through art. So I was practicing mostly through portraiture. And then years went on, and I ended up going to art school, and I started doing like a lot of pen drawings. And this one here is one of my drawings. It's actually the last pen portrait that I did. I did this in 2014. I became like, that's what people knew me for. All my friends would introduce me like, oh, you got to see his pen drawings. You got to see how he does this and how he does that. And I had this like reputation for doing this one thing, and it kind of made me feel like I had to meet that expectation. I had to respond to what people expected of me, and it actually burned me out. And by like 2016, I thought that making art was done for me. I thought like I've done everything. I could still do it. I have the skills, but it's not fulfilling. So I actually gave up on art. I stopped doing it, and I mostly started journaling and writing. And I think that's when I started to like really find my inner child that got lost through the years. And so I'll show. I'll show like, it's kind of a random selection of work that I have. This is not really like, it's not really in a specific order or anything, but I started creating all types of random sketches and just little doodles. I stopped trying to make serious work. I stopped trying to make work that would be accepted by galleries. I stopped trying to make work that would impress like gallery owners or just random people that I didn't even hang out with. I wanted to just do stuff that I could talk to my friends about. That if I talked to my child version of myself, like he would be like, oh, that's really cool. That's a cool sketch. Like I wanted to just do that again. I wanted to find like that inner child again. And what ended up happening was I started connecting a lot of my passions and loves as a young kid. Like Marquis said, he was playing basketball, and I went through a phase where I didn't think that making art was the cool thing to do. So I wanted to play basketball. But again, I wasn't that good at it. I wanted to be a rapper. I wanted to have clothes. I wanted to design clothes. And what happened during these years of my life, like in 2016, 17, 18, I started bringing all of those things back, the things that kind of formed me and got me, and like through my first few years in the United States. And so I started designing clothes. I stopped trying to do what I thought people expected of me. And I had this broad skill set, and like, it took me a while to really figure out how it would come together. So these are just random pieces that I was creating throughout this point in my life. I started finding that I didn't actually connect to one specific art medium, and that my approach to art making was more about thinking about what I wanted to say and then using whatever vehicle was necessary to say that. And I found a very happy medium at the convergence of visual art and music. Um, and when I say visual art, I don't just mean drawing and painting. I mean fashion design. I mean stage and set design. I mean film and photography. So actually, this sketch right here, I did this in 2016. I'll show you guys a snippet of like some of my current work. Um, this, I like, speaking of what inspires us, this was a sketch of a girl that I used to mentor at Artists for Humanity. I was teaching there, and she was wearing this skirt, and I just created this character wearing a skirt holding a child, and I knew in my head, okay, I want this child to be red. I don't know why, but it's gonna be a red child. And this is a painting, probably the most recent painting that I've worked on from a couple months ago. But I ended up taking that image and creating this out of it. So a lot of those ideas and explorations that I was going through, where I was just experimenting and tapping back into my roots, are playing a role in my work now. I find that it helps me to not box myself into a specific style or into a specific medium, and to just focus on the end result of what I'm trying to communicate. I like speaking of the convergence of visual art and music. Professionally, I've done a lot of work for artists in the music industry. So I've designed album covers. I did this album cover here on the left in 2018, I think, or 19. This is some work. I design a lot of tour merch also for artists. That's been slow because artists aren't touring anymore. But this is a storyboard for a film that I'm working on. And I design my own clothes as well. Yeah, so it's just a random selection of work. I just wanted to give a sneak peek at like different facets of myself. I didn't really know exactly what to focus on, but thank you all for your time.
Amazing, amazing work. Wow, that's the stuff. I was at one of the Freeze Gallery shows, and I was immersed in some of those paintings, and tears welled up in my eyes from the beauty. It was amazing. Thanks, bud.
Thanks. Thank you.
Great, so I'm up next. So I'll start off with the question, what inspires me? And what absolutely inspires me as a writer is life. I wasn't planning on sharing this, but so in this bag here is all of my journals from like when I was a teenager up until today. I have been journaling for a very long time, and I just never throw my journals away. And that I'll transition into, so I have so many, I haven't counted them, but I've been saving them for a very long time. But I'll transition into my presentation. So as I mentioned, life truly inspires me. So what you see here is, on the left-hand side, little Nakia. I was about 4 years old. I was at my grandmother's home in Jamaica Plain, And that little girl and all of the things that she has experienced, like writing truly has been a healing tool for me. It has been a way for me to respond to the things that are, that have happened in my life, that's occurring in the world. And it's so interesting when I was asked to be a judge for this writing competition, and the theme was water. Like, I feel a true connection to water, and I'll talk a little about that later. But life is what inspires me as a writer. And my process is, as I mentioned, I've been writing since I was seriously, I'm 13 years old. That's when I was like, oh, like this is something that I do creatively all the time to express myself. So here is a poem that I wrote. As you can see, it's written by hand. It's pulled directly from probably one of those journals in that bag in 2001 when my great-grandmother passed away. And this was something that I wrote to start the process of grief. Because, sometimes as writing is a process. I'll start from a journal, and then I'll, type it up. I'm still someone that writes by hand. I was actually responding to one of the prompts for this competition this year on water. And I started to write the piece by hand before I actually transferred it to my Google document. So I believe as writing as a tool for healing. And that was this piece is in my book that I pulled from my journal. And I self-published my first book, Water Carrier, which is a collection of poetry. That was my first collection of poetry that I produced in 2018 when I was a Boston artist in residence. And I just really felt led. I actually created this. I didn't have a plan. I thought I was going to write a memoir, but then I got off the phone with my mom. It was the release of Solange, the music artist, A Seat at the Table. Her album had released that Friday. I just got off the phone with my mom. We had a very intense conversation, and I just started writing for 6 hours straight, just to overcome something something just overtook my body, my spirit, and I just wrote for 6 hours. And that's how my book, Water Carrier, came to life. And it's really hands-on for me. So it goes from an experience, something that in life that will inspire me to write, then it's pen to paper, then from paper to the computer. And I literally, whenever I create books, and that's actually what I do, as an educator at my job, 826 Boston, we publish books with students. So like it's a science. I literally print out the pages when it's time to edit. I'll mark up the pages with a pen, and I'll lay them out to make sure that the order feels right and that it's an experience for the reader. But I truly believe that for me, writing, and for other people, and that's like a part of my life's work, primarily to promote writing as a tool for healing and resistance for Black and women and girls of color. My writing's also very collaborative. So whenever I'm creating a book, here's a copy of my book right here, Water Carrier. I'm very intentional about, from if I'm creating something from the journal to the document, and if it's going to turn into a book, who am I bringing in to that process? So right in front here, when I was working on my book of poetry, my raw, unedited manuscript, my cousin, who is an artist, she's currently a student at Mass Art, she read, because I knew that I wanted to bring I wanted to bring visual art into my work. So she, as a visual artist, as an illustrator, she does photography as well. She read my pieces and she just created. I said, let your art speak to my writing. And it was things that she read about my experiences growing up and currently entering into womanhood, relationships that I've had, with the women the matriarchs in my life, my mom, my aunt, my grandmother, and just how I was processing that through writing. And she created these illustrations. And she would say it's not her best work, but I feel like what she spoke to through my writing and was able to speak, and we were able to collaborate as blood cousins. It was a beautiful process. So also I believe like what inspires me is, of course, life. The process is inspiring. The process leads me to the next level. And when I'm able to collaborate with others. Here's another image of my book. And as I said, writing as a tool for healing, writing as a tool for liberation. These are photos from, so I have also my second book, I Still Did It, which is an intergenerational anthology. I'm trying to look for the book, right? I don't have it in front of me, but it's an intergenerational anthology. I worked with women and girls in Dorchester, Roxbury, Jamaica Plain, and I led some creative writing workshops, and the theme was resilience. And these are photos of the women and girls at their book release party. So they're signing their books, and they had an opportunity, because I believe in my role as an artist is to give back, to deposit what I learned, my skills, my gifts. And that's so interesting. You use the word gifts, Free, because I really think it's important for me to deposit my gifts back into the community to continue to plant those seeds. So here's the wonderful women and girls at their book release party. And overall, just being the change that I want to see in the world, like that keeps me, moving forward to do what I have to do. That leads my work as an artist, to be able to contribute something so that I can build legacy. And that's it. Thank you guys for listening.
Amazing. Love it. Wow. This is such an amazing group. I'm so happy. I feel so wonderful to be a part of this exchange. I have a couple of slides. I'm gonna keep it real brief. Okay.
Jason, we should probably jump to our contest overview, because I think we're coming up toward the end of our webinar here.
All right, let's do it. So,
right, let me share my screen real quick. Awesome. Did you want to talk about it, Jason, or?
Here we go. In 2021, the 2021 Ocean Awareness Contest, Water Rising, a creative opportunity to speak up for our blue planet. It's free to enter. Visual arts, spoken word, poetry, creative writing, film, music, dance, multimedia. Express yourselves. Add your voice to this conversation. Fight for what's right. It's open to youth from ages 11 to 18, and we give cash prizes of up to $1,500. The deadline for submission is June 14th, 2021. And of course, you can find out more information at www.bowseat.org/contest. And as an addition to the Ocean Awareness Contest, we have the We All Rise Prize, which invites youth to share their concerns and ideas and visions about important environmental issues in a creative way. Thousands of dollars of scholarships are given to young people, and we want the We All Rise Prize to invite and include and make sure that the voices of Black, Indigenous, and Latino teens in the United States are part of this conversation. Currently, they are underrepresented, and we want to do our best to cultivate their submissions to this contest. So it's a big deal to me, it's a big deal to us. We want to make sure that everybody is able to participate, that everybody sees the value in their own voice, that they feel empowered by this collective to put their opinions, their feelings on paper, to be passionate about environmentalism, and know that we here at Bowseat want to hear from them and then amplify their voices through our platforms. So this is the why We All Rise Prize was initiated, and we want to hear all of your water stories. We want young people to put their ideas down on paper or into the air in song or into our eyes with dance, and respond to us with prompts. So we have a series of prompts to help get your imagination flowing. Pretty simply, have you been affected by hurricanes, sea level rise, or other impacts of climate change? There's the question of, where does your water come from? And what is that journey, and how does it feel to you? Do you have access to clean water? How are some communities disproportionately impacted by water contamination? This is a huge issue our country is facing right now. Are there water protectors whom you admire? Are you a water protector? And of course, what role has water played in your life? What memories do you have of water? So these are just some prompts to get your creative juices flowing, so that you can also participate in this contest. Hold on one second. I was sitting still for too long. Our lights are our motion sensors here, because we don't want the lights on while the space is not occupied. So I got to move around a little bit to keep the lights on in our gallery. But yeah, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, friends and family, thank you all so much for attending this webinar with us. At this time, I'd love to take any questions anybody has. If you guys have any questions, we'd love to answer your inquiries and do what we can to help you all participate. So yeah.
Jason, did you want to share something earlier? I didn't mean to cut you off. If you...
I did have a couple of pieces, I made a little PowerPoint.
I'll let you share your screen. I didn't mean to cut you off earlier.
Where did my PowerPoint go? Let's see. Oh, here we go. Share. Is it? Let me first, let's share this screen of mine. Share, present, and look at this guy. Look at this young guy. This is me back in the 90s. I found my voice through graffiti, in my neighborhood. I also grew up in Roxbury, right by Eggleston Square, Seaver Street and Humboldt Ave. And it was, I had a beautiful childhood growing up. But of course there were issues, and I did have some hardship, but I found escape. I found liberation, a voice representation, all through painting on walls. And paint isn't water, but it's liquid. It sprays, it drips, and spray paint gave me, it just gave me so much life, and it was just amazing for me. My tag is SWAT, S-W-A-T, simultaneously witnessing all things. I was really trying to figure out the world that I was living in. I was trying to figure out my place in the world, and painting and art really helped me find that. Here goes me on a ladder. There's a little splotch on my picture here, but it's an old picture from the 90s, y'all. And we did art battles on Washington Street at the handball court and over there, and it was great times. I had a tremendously huge crew of young guys, some alumni from Artists for Humanity, but then a bunch of other graffiti writers from around town. We used to get together and spray paint. And this is a painting I did of my son. I love the kid. He's been my inspiration. You know, he's, you know, when he was born, when he came into my life, he's the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen in my life. And I love him so much. He inspired me to make a lot of artwork. He inspired me to fight for this world that he's going to inherit. You know, I think it's so important for us to look to be a good example for the next generation and make sure that we're not, you know, destroying the resources and destroying our world and our environment. These young people deserve more than that. So that's my boy, a dapper young gentleman, let me tell you. And then this is a mural I did. This wall had got tagged up, and you know, it was right in the beginning of COVID, and it's protests all around the city, and people bombing on walls, and this guy, you know, the city, it said Black Lives Matter, and the city wanted to paint over it, and so this guy said, "Hey man, paint a mural on my wall. That's my daughter, Elena. She's an artist, an amazing artist, my best little buddy." And so I painted her on the wall. I didn't want her to be jealous of her brother. See, if I had paintings of him, I had to make sure I painted his sister too. That's stuff you got to do as a dad. And but I had a ball painting that piece. This was a piece I did for Mel King over in the South End. He has the South End Makerspace. And so I did a little graffiti piece for him. Used a protractor and a compass and some Legos. They had all that stuff in their makerspace. We had a wild party every year at Artists for Humanity called the Greatest Party on Earth, but that's kind of a shortened name. It's the Greatest Party on Earth Day. It's an Earth Day celebration where we take up the issues of today. We talk about what's going on in the environment. And this year, when we painted this piece, it was all about the North Atlantic right whale. You know, the right whale is making headlines. There's only 400 left in the world. They're not reproducing. It's almost as though they can feel the distress that our oceans are under. It's almost like, you know, they don't want to be a part of this messed up system we're in. And so I painted this giant whale on this canvas with one of my buddies, Brennan, one of our teen participants here at Artists for Humanity. And we painted these rings around the whale, and they represent sound waves, and it's the whale's song. And we invited the guests of the greatest party on earth to write messages from the world, from the whale to the world. And we got some really great responses on the piece. I wanted people to feel it was a collaborative art process. It was a good time. Yeah, suit. That's a nice suit. I know. Hey, you know, that was a good night. And then that led into just this summer. We painted a giant 100 by 30-foot mural in East Boston, part of the Pangea Seed Mural Fest over there. It was an amazing experience. Me standing with my arm outstretched reaches about up to that turtle's eyeball. It's giant. It's giant in real life, but it's also giant on this mural. We wanted to liven up this space for East Boston, but East Boston is one of these, you know, shoreline communities, you know, populated by immigrants that are disproportionately affected by sea level rise. And so we wanted to gift them a beautiful mural so that they can have a beautified neighborhood, but also represent for our endangered sea creatures. Let me get some motion going, hold on. All right, I'm back. And this is the entire piece. It's huge. It was a lot of fun to paint. We had tons of young people working on it. And at this time, it was at the height of quarantine. We hadn't seen each other in forever. We hadn't hung out in our community. But because this mural was so huge, we were able to mask up, stay socially distanced, and still collaborate to make something beautiful. So it was a pretty fun time for us all. And then these are a couple of AFH kids. When you know, in the weeks following the inauguration of former President Donald Trump, there was a huge women's march on Boston Common. It was the most people I've ever seen gathered together in Boston in my entire life. It rivaled even the Boston Marathon and First Night and the 4th of July. It was outrageous. There were tens of thousands, maybe millions of people there. And we worked with W2O to make these Save Our Oceans protest signs. And if you guys remember, if you all remember from the Women's March, it was the protest signs that went viral, that people saw, that got the message out. And I think as artists and activists, that's so much our role is to put a visual to the messages of the issues of the day. And that's really what I think, you know, I want our young people who are participating in this We All Rise Prize to do, to put the images to the cause so that we can better communicate the message that we need to save our oceans, that we need to ensure for clean drinking water for everyone, and use art, use music, use dance, use writing to spread those messages, to motivate people to make the right decision for our environment. So that's all I got, guys. Thank you so much for the platform. Let me stop that share. Thanks for checking out some of the work that I've made in my life. And I'm super excited to see all the submissions that come in to the We All Rise Prize and to the Bow Sea Ocean Awareness Contest. It's gonna be an amazing year. Did I see any questions? I mean, we're a little bit over, so maybe we save questions for email. Let me know. What should we do?
We got one question, but I think we answered them, which was, is the We All Rise Prize for anybody around the world? Which it's specifically for Black, Indigenous, Latine people in the US, but our contest is open to anybody worldwide. So
exactly, this is a specific initiative to increase submissions from underrepresented populations, but of course everyone should feel empowered to submit their artwork to the Ocean Awareness Contest. Yeah.
Thanks for hosting, Jason.
Yeah.
Hey, thanks for having me.
And thanks everybody on the committee too for presenting your artwork.
Oh my God, thank you so much.
I think someone seems to have a question in the audience. Oh. Ruby, do you have a question?
Yes, thank you. First of all, I just wanted to thank you guys for hosting this event. Like it was really cool. And I'm just wondering if like I can maybe like find some of your like contact information for like maybe for like one of my school events. It would be really cool, but I don't know.
Hey, right? Well, I know that I'm on the bowseat.org website. And I think maybe, you know, if you reach out there, we'll definitely be able to connect you.
And Jason, we can send an email everybody after the webinar with links. And anybody on the committee who's willing to share their contact information, we can share that through that email as well. So just know that'll be happening after this webinar.
Sweet. Yeah, check the chat. There's some emails there, some websites.
Thank you so much.
And I definitely recommend checking out those websites. I mean, there's beautiful artwork there, and it's definitely something you should connect with. So for sure.
And Jason, I can actually share a piece just so the artists out there, so you can have a sample of like the different ways that you can approach it as a visual artist, as a writer, as a sculptor, as a performance artist. I actually responded. One of the prompts that I felt connected to was the last one. So like, what's your, you know, your memory or connection, relationship with water? So I'll share that with you.
Yes.
Close this out. Whenever I work with young people and it comes to art, writing. I never want to ask them to do something that I haven't done myself. This piece is so unfinished, but this was my response to that prompt. And it's a working title, Tide. I hear the sounds of waves. It is not calming. It is not peaceful. It is not music to my ears. Oceans are where the unrested souls live. We jump ship for freedom. Some of us fear water now. Some of us find freedom in learning how to swim. I am tasting salt, blood, and tears. Polluted water never quench our thirst. Scales on human skin. So that's what I have so far. But my response, did you guys hear me reading that, or was it on mute?
We heard you. It was amazing. Thank you.
We heard you, yeah.
Wow. What a beautiful note to end this webinar on. Thank you all for coming. This is going to be amazing. Let's keep the conversation going. Let's put those ideas down on paper. I'm just thrilled to be a part of all this and to be part of such an amazing community. So thank you all. My lights are turning down, and I look forward to the next time we meet.